Broadcasting live. It's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide by the Business Talk Radio Network, the Lifestyle Talk Radio Network, and on the internet at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. It's Monday, the 5th of March, 2012, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
Our guest this hour is from a company called Netropole, and they offer a Fortune 100 level data protection available for the first time for small and medium businesses for $15 a day. All right. Netropole provides real-time data backup and system failover solutions designed for all businesses, regardless of size or budget. Now get this. This system provides data snapshots as frequently as every 15 minutes, backs up all data to 2 remote off-site data centers, and provides system restores in minutes instead of traditional scenarios of hours or even days. That's right, in minutes. Now, how is that possible? Joining us to explain how all this technology works in cloud computing is Dave Johnson. Dave is the president and CEO of Netropole. Dave, welcome into Computer America. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so why don't we just give an overview, a little bit about the company's background. What's Netropole all about?
Sure. I started the company in 1994 to provide IT services for companies. We're based out of Portland, Oregon, and the majority of businesses here are small and medium businesses. So we take care of those small, medium, and what I call emerging businesses and treat them like a Fortune 100 company would be treated as far as IT is concerned.
Uh-huh. And all right, and so is your main thrust, would you say, is cloud computing?
It's becoming that, yeah, very much so. The traditional model of break-fix computer support has given way to what's called managed services, where we provide services on a contract basis for clients, and that has quickly given way to what's the latest buzz phrase, which is cloud computing.
Okay, so because you offer a variety, you have web design and different e-commerce and different products, but you're saying the cloud computing is becoming one of the fastest products that your company offers today.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about cloud computing. Everybody has a different definition of it. It seems these days. What's your definition of cloud computing?
It boils down to this for me. I call it ubiquitous access to computing resources that you don't own or have limited control over. Mm-hmm. So the old model of computing was every couple of years a company would go out and buy a new server and operating system and licenses and deploy it, stick it in the closet, and then use it for a couple of years and then replace it. What the cloud's done is provided services through the internet. Now that the internet's fast enough, it provides services to companies where they don't store the data locally, where they are able to leverage, in many cases, very, very expensive software that would have been out of their reach just a couple of years ago. They can get access to for a couple of bucks a month, kind of thing, as opposed to doing it themselves.
Yeah. So you wouldn't call cloud computing a new technology, would you?
No, definitely not. I mean, for people who have been in the computer industry long enough and remember mainframes and minis and so forth, big corporations would buy those, and then they would actually lease out time on them to other companies, in some cases even their competitors, because the equipment was so expensive. This is really a new version of that, where you don't own the hardware, you don't own the software, you didn't develop it yourself, and really you have no idea where it's even stored or hosted. All you're doing is you're connecting to it remotely in a secure fashion and using that software. So probably the best examples of that, when you boil it down, are anybody who's got a Gmail account or an MSN account or uses Salesforce.com. That's an example of cloud computing. You don't own it. You're just using it for the time that you need it.
Right. I mean, I think Gmail was one of the first introductions to consumers of what the power of cloud computing and what could really do it. It's one of the first mainstream cloud computing offerings to general consumers. Would you say that's a fair statement, or?
Yeah, I would say so. Certainly from a broad appeal perspective, absolutely. It has a very very large footprint, and a lot of organizations have actually converted over to Gmail as their mail of choice. In fact, we've got a number of clients that are not running on what's traditional as Microsoft Exchange. They've got all their accounts via Gmail.
So it's fair to say that cloud computing is really not for big business only, is it?
No, not at all. In fact, a lot of big businesses have got either an existing infrastructure that was very expensive to acquire and to maintain, and they've got a big investment in it. It's really the biggest bang for the buck comes with the small and medium sized businesses. And the best example, really, I'll go back to Salesforce, is Salesforce, for those who don't know, is a CRM system, customer relationship management system. And if you were to go and write all the features, write the code for Salesforce.com, it would cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to develop. And anybody can, with a credit card, can have access to Salesforce and all the power that it has and all the features that it has for, I think, around $25 per user per month to take advantage of that multi-million-dollar software.
Wow. And but I think a lot of people still think that it's hard to set these things up, and I don't know why they would think that, because, I don't see it being, whether the application is on your computer or if it's out in the cloud. If it's a difficult application, it's going to be difficult no matter where it's located, so.
Right, yeah, and certainly they're engineered to be easy to use, and there's kind of a continuum on cloud. There are applications like Salesforce and MSN and so forth that are very easy to access and set up, and often cost nothing to use. On the far end of the scale, there are things like Amazon's server services and Microsoft's Azure services, where you're actually using time, leasing time, if you will, on computing systems, and in some cases entire networks, where you're bringing up an Exchange server in the cloud. So you're running Exchange, but it's not on premises in your office. Or you're, say you're an e-commerce company, and during the holiday season, your sales quadruple. And rather than have, 10 servers in the closet for 300 days of the year, sitting idle, you're able to go ahead and spin up those servers for the holiday season and really scale so that none of your servers crash. After the holiday season is, you just stop the service, you stop paying for it, and until next year. So it allows companies to scale massively without having to have the kind of capital investments normally that they'd have.
So you're saying cloud computing is basically less expensive than traditional computing. Is that what you're saying?
It can be. I mean, I think that the hidden costs of cloud computing, I did a presentation for a bunch of financial folks, CFOs here in Portland, and I talked about the spreadsheet numbers, where if you look at cloud versus, say, licensing Office, Microsoft Office is now available in the cloud, and that's going to be even bigger here in the next year or so. If you looked at buying Microsoft Office for your entire company from Office Depot at retail, it'd be it's fairly expensive. Using the cloud version of it is very inexpensive.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Listen, Dave, the music means we got to take a little break here, and then we'll continue on. This is the Computer America Show on the Business Talk Radio Network. We're talking to Dave Johnson. He's the president and CEO of a company called Netropole. Is that how you pronounce it, Netropole?
Yep, that's
all right. And we're going to continue on talking more about cloud computing and backing up. We'll be right back with him. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Computer America Show on the Business Talk Radio Network. Dave Johnson is here with us. He is the president and CEO of a company called Netropole, and it's all a lot about cloud computing, and we're just kind of getting into it, and we're coming up with the fact that cloud computing in many ways can be cheaper than traditional computing for a number of reasons, including one day that you mentioned, like during the holidays when your business ramps up more, instead of having to buy more equipment, more servers, and then let them stay idle for the rest of the year when that rush goes over. This way you can just rent the service that you need and scale it up or down as according to your business needs. Correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. So let's talk a little bit about the look and feel. I mean, how would using this be different from an office that's not in the cloud? I mean, what would it look like or feel like?
Let me touch on one thing. There's kind of two versions of cloud. One is what I call public cloud, and that would be, for example, using QuickBooks Online or Salesforce. So it's public facing; anybody can get to it and sign up for it. There's also private cloud, which is the idea of taking your existing infrastructure, so your Exchange server, your file and print, your terminal server, things like that, and moving it off premise into a secure environment that's outside of your building. The difference between the two is that with private cloud, you can get the same kind of desktop experience that you're used to with the servers in the closet, if you will, with the same kind of features. So it's not just one application, but it can be your whole computing environment. The advantages of that over public cloud are security. You can have a closed loop of security between your building and where your servers are housed. So just to kind of clarify that for folks, that they might hear about public or private cloud.
Yeah. Well, what are the downsides of doing something in the cloud, or are there any downsides? You can't have a front without a back, can you? Something that's going to
no, not at all. Yeah, no, I would say the biggest ones that I worry about for folks is kind of failover strategies. I mean, when folks have got a server in the closet the traditional way, they're assuming that their backups are going to work and that they'll be able to get their data back if they've got a problem. But they've got control over that environment. I'll give you an example. We had a client who just brought up a cloud-based offering. They went from a client-server application they've been running for years to a cloud-based one. And the important thing for them was to have a failover plan, to have a way of getting back to good if, so for example, if their internet connection was down for a couple of days, I mean, that's how they would get to their data. So if it's a business critical application in the cloud and you can't get to it, you've got a problem, obviously. So what's the plan B? How do you keep functioning if even if your cloud provider goes out of business?
Well, that's it. So that would be the only downside, would you say?
No, I would say that's probably the biggest one is just because folks they just get excited about how inexpensive it's going to be, and they really don't think about, well, what if it doesn't work out for us? And in the example with this most recent client, it didn't work out at all for them. The application did not work the way that they worked, and so they rolled back to their previous model, and they're going to kind of extend that. So cloud, I guess my point is, cloud's not for everybody. It's a matter of what's the risk versus what's the return.
Okay, well, how do your customers use the cloud?
Some of them are using the cloud for email. Certainly, folks are using Microsoft SharePoint in the cloud. Microsoft SharePoint's a collaboration platform where folks can share documents and things like that. Using Gmail, using the equivalent of net meetings. So Skype, for example, is a cloud-based application that folks are using for video conferencing. Dropbox is a big thing. I'm a real fan of Dropbox right now, but on a limited basis. I don't put anything in Dropbox that I wouldn't want the world to see because I'm not convinced that it's completely secure.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Microsoft. You want to take a wild guess who our guest is in the second hour?
I can't imagine.
Microsoft, right. Anyhow, let's talk a little bit about this press release that you did about your backup systems, and because one of the things that we and Flashback, because we here at Computer America are huge advocates of backing up your computer. We always say it's not if your hard drive will fail, Dave. It's when it's going to fail, and I know that you have a service. Now, is it called Flashback? What is Flashback actually?
Yeah, Flashback's really just the thing that I call it, just for lack of a better term, because it's more of a technology than it is a product. The traditional way of doing backups that probably 70% of the businesses out there are using currently is to backing up to tape or to disk, which is fraught with peril. Tape's a very fragile medium. I don't even consider when we work with clients if they insist on backing up to tape, then really we don't work with them because we're not going to be on the receiving end of a problem with tape.
Do people still use tape these days? And
they do.
Why?
Yeah, it's crazy. They made the investment. They bought those tapes 3 years ago.
I mean, I bought 8-track tapes too way back when. I don't still have an 8-track player in my home. The point is, you gotta you realize, I mean, that just boggles the mind, that people use the old technology. It's time to move on. It's like using floppy disk, come on. Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so much of computing from the business owner's perspective is based on assumptions. They assume that the server will run for as long as it's got power to it. They assume that if they've got a tape backup, then the kind of mental checkbox has been checked, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's just not true. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, especially in a data loss type situation. So what we're doing these days is we're using a combination of server imaging technology and virtualization. So instead of taking a data stream like a tape would of linear data and then trying to restore that, the tools that we're using will actually take a complete snapshot of a server or a workstation in real time. If that server were to go down, or you need to take it down for maintenance or something like that, we're able to spin up a virtual image of that server in minutes, and the concurrency, as you mentioned, can be as frequently as every 15 minutes.
Wow. I'll tell you what, let's continue on with this. This is the Computer America Show on the Business Talk Radio Network. It's all about the cloud these days, and we're talking to Netropole that does most of their business in the cloud. We're talking about their flashback system. We'll continue on when we come back. You're listening to the Computer America Show on the Business Talk Radio Network, 866-606-TALK, the toll-free number. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. Dave Johnson from Netropole is with us, and you touched a little bit about this earlier with the Dropbox, but especially my brother and a few other people I know aren't really all that keen on putting all of their data on the cloud. Especially someone who's doing this for their business. Putting everything in their business on the cloud is really, could seem really scary to them. And and there's so many people on the internet, and you hear all these horror stories of people being hacked and their data, deleted or stolen or yada yada yada. And I just want to know how safe is cloud computing, and if it's pretty safe, how can you make yourself safer?
No, that's a great question. I mean, the biggest issue for me with cloud is not necessarily that the technology is flawed or there's anything wrong with it, except just looking at what the security model is for cloud. So when you sign up for Gmail, as everybody knows, I mean, there's pages and pages of end user license agreement, and they're changing that right now to
Who reads that?
try to streamline that. Yeah, who reads the stuff? Who knows what that says? So,
I don't think anybody reads any end user agreements. I think it's the shrink wrap, license.
I've read a few, but that's only because I was extremely bored and waiting for something to happen. and all the stuff in there, like even if you do take the time to sit down and read it, if you don't have a lawyer present, you don't know what it's even saying.
And is it enforceable?
No, exactly, and it's changeable at any time. So you opt in at one point, and then they change their policies, and they may or may not. They should let you know that they've changed, and you're subject to them. I mean, it's unilateral. It's not bilateral. So that's really where we're seeing. I mean, people are interested in cloud. They're interested in reducing computing costs. They're interested in being able to do like technology uplifts without spending a whole lot of money if they're on old technology. And private cloud is really what allows you to do that. It gives you the opportunity to not have the overhead cost of having an IT person in-house and not have the kind of risk that you've got if you're running a tape backup and you don't want to spend money on more advanced backup solutions. When we do a private cloud, we're providing all of the equipment and the fault tolerance and the failover equipment as well, so that if something goes down, we've got the client back up in minutes rather than days or hours or whatever it traditionally would take. So no, your point's really valid, Ben. It's a matter of anybody who's putting their email in Gmail and thinks that it's private and secure. I've got news for them. They're wrong. That's not happening. So so you really have to be careful.
It definitely isn't private because Gmail scans it automatically, trying to target you with those advertisers. When you say that you set up private clouds for people, do you have your own servers and you kind of put them on your servers, or do you hire someone else's servers and put them on theirs?
No, we do it. We do it ourselves. I think ultimately the market's going to be such that we won't be doing that. We won't be providing the hardware ourselves. We'll actually become more of a middleman between really high quality service providers who've got the hardware and the pipes and so forth to get to it. But currently we've got a co-location facility, and we go and we deploy servers in racks, and we manage those. And the difference is that you can do that with larger providers, but you're typically running that in a kind of a shared environment. So one server, one physical server with a bunch of virtual servers running on it. With our private cloud offering, I put myself in the client's position. What would I want? What I want is a complete closed-looped ecosystem. I don't want my server's data or my SQL Server data to be commingling with somebody else's data or their equipment. So it's the servers are tied directly to the client, and they're their resource. So it's not shared at all. So it keeps it secure, and it keeps flexibility. If a client says they want something configured a certain way, we can do that for them. Whereas on a shared platform, what you see is what you get, kind of thing.
Isn't it's important that if you're using your service, what kind of broadband connection that you have to the internet, because is that not definitely has an effect on the speeds that you're dealing with? I mean, when you say, hey, if your whole system goes down, we're going to be able to restore it with flashback, but obviously, if you have an enormous amount of information and you have, a 1.5, maybe a low-end DSL connection to the internet, that's going to take you a long time to get that, is it not?
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's a little bit different with flashback. That's either if somebody's using private hosting, we've got a box that's in the rack with their equipment that's backing it up in real time, so it's Ethernet speed. If we're deploying it out at a client site to back up their existing equipment, then it's going to be able to restore on the Ethernet. The offsite backup happens, and that's really just completely for true business continuation disaster recovery. So if your building burns down, we call an 800 number, and in 48 hours we have a replacement server with last night's data delivered anywhere in the U.S. So you're able to get back online, get back to your business, and you haven't lost anything. So we don't try to do what Carbonite and other folks are trying to do right now, Mosey, which is to provide restore services across the wire. Those do not work the way folks expect them to.
Well, I was going to say because you mentioned a couple of the services; those are very consumer oriented. But if you do have a disaster now. Most of the Carbonite, the ones that you mentioned, I think, are primarily file backup. They don't back up the entire image of your hard drive, and you can get your files, or your data files back. Not even the applications, but the data is what they're backing up. Correct?
That's correct, yeah, and that's kind of the devil in the details, right? When the business owner looks at, well, it's going to cost me $19.95 a month for this, or it's going to cost me, $4.95 a month for that. They're not really typically clear on what the difference is between the two, and that's really the point. Is that it's a matter of I can get your data back, that's not a problem, but where are your disks? Where's the hardware that's going to run on, and things like that. That's the kind of thing that the folks typically don't think about. Whereas with a flashback solution, you've got redundancy, you've got a piece of equipment there that we spin up the virtual, and it's running on that box. And so we're not running around looking for, well, who's not using their PC that we can make into a server for a while, kind of thing.
Right. So basically, you're saying it sounds to me like it's a dual-tiered setup. In other words, you're not only doing backup off-site, but the flashback is actually doing a complete image backup to a device that's somewhere located in the vicinity of the office itself. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. For performance, it's going to be right next to whatever it's backing up. Let's put it that way. Physically, it's going to be right next to it. So the first one we deployed was a client who was very, very skeptical, and I had sold him years and years ago a robotic tape changer that probably cost $6,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And they didn't think that this was going to work. Well, it just happened that their Exchange server went down less than 2 weeks after we deployed the box. And when I heard the Exchange was down, I kind of freaked out. And then I was like, wait a minute, we put this box in, so let's go activate it. And we had them spun up in, I think it was less than 20 minutes with all our Exchange data, and it was sending and receiving mail. And then they ran on that box for the next 2 weeks while they, decided what new server they were going to put in and so forth. And so, they experienced 30 minutes of downtime, and they had, gigabytes and gigabytes. I mean, I don't think their data store was around 80 gig or 90 gig of data of email, that they were storing. So they didn't experience any appreciable downtime. Their customers never noticed the difference.
And that's, again, it's all because the box is located somewhere on the premise, and so basically connections to speed or Ethernet speeds, which are extremely fast.
Right.
So that's basically the difference between yours and some of the other consumer companies that like you mentioned a few of them that's the difference between what you have to offer, what they have to offer, and of course the price reflects that because you're right. You say one is like $19.95 a month, and yours is like $15 a day. So it's you're talking you've got to be paying for something really special with that kind of price. And what you're saying, what they're getting basically is a restoration that's going to take 20 minutes to a half an hour, and they're up and running. Whereas with the other services, they have to download it.
Exactly, right. Yeah, exactly. And it's no way to disparage, Mozy or Carbonite. I mean, they do what they do, and they fit a certain niche in the market, and that's great. But it's not the same thing as having true fault tolerance on your data and your servers and your resources. It's just not the same thing.
Yeah, no, and obviously it's certainly reflected. So let's talk a little bit more about flashback. So now again, this is really. Although it's a product name, it's really, you're talking about the entire, Flashback basically talks about your entire backup and restore service. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's the equipment and the software layers that are on top of it that make it all possible.
And when someone hires a Netropole, do you come out to the office location to install all of this? I mean, what's the procedure there? Actually, I'll tell you what. We're coming up against the break, so when we come back, let's talk about how you actually get all this equipment up and running, and what the process is, okay?
Yep.
All right. You're listening to the Computer America Show on the Business Talk Radio Network. We're talking to Netropole. We'll continue on with them. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It's 51 minutes after the hour. If you're just joining us now, we're talking to Netropole. Dave Johnson is the president and CEO of Netropole. And just before the break, I asked you a question. Basically, what the difference is. The procedure of installing Flashback into your office. In other words, if I want to do this, do you provide the equipment? I mean, can you kind of go over what you do?
Sure. Yeah, the Flashback can either be purchased outright, or we provide it as a service for the client. So it just depends on if they want to spend money on the hardware and own it or not. But most of our clients are not paying for the equipment outright themselves. They recognize that it takes about 3 years for computer equipment to become obsolete. So in 3 years, there's going to be something newer or better out there. So it's kind of the deployment scenarios for the Portland metro area, Oregon and Washington. We go and actually go on site and do the deployment to their office. We drop a little agent piece of software on their servers that talks back to the Flashback and basically let it rip and start with the images. Once the base images are created, we ship them off-site to the co-location facilities in the Midwest and on the East Coast, and they go ahead and store those. And then any changes to the data on a daily basis or hourly or whatever we set it up as, that gets written out across the wire every night to those co-location facilities. So if their building burns down, they're not out of luck. Their data is current. So. But we're able to deploy either in Portland Metro, but also around the country, around the world for that matter, because we can pre-configure the boxes, ship them to the client, and basically they have to plug in 3 cables to it, turn it on, and give us a call, and then we're able to remote into it and finish the configuration.
It's that simple. In other words, you send them a box. It's got a power cord. What are the 3? You got 3 cords in it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ethernet, the power cord, and maybe a monitor and a keyboard.
Okay.
But that's not necessary.
All right. So they plug this in, connect it up, and then call you, and then you can access the equipment and do everything remotely. So basically, as the client, I just have to find a place to put it, and a place that obviously that will connect to connect to my computer or my computer network, I guess is what I need to do. Sounds a little bit like a NAS of some sort,
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a NAS, only just huge functionality beyond that, in the ability to bring up that virtual image. So, but yeah, no, it's very, very simple. We can walk somebody through it in no time. And then the nice thing about it is that we monitor the performance of the box itself, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So if anything goes wrong with the machine, if a backup doesn't happen, if a database file's locked or something like that, we know in real time that that's happened. We don't end up finding out about that at the end of the week or anything like that.
So obviously you'd call in over the internet to check this out. But so if something happens, now are you also doing the when you connect this? Is it also starting to do the off-site backup as well as the backup to the device itself?
That's correct. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it does it in the background, completely transparent to the users. There's very little impact on their bandwidth, because that first image is say you've got 100 gigabytes that you're storing offsite.
Yeah.
That gets shipped out on a USB hard drive. And uploaded, and then from that point on, it's just the deltas. It's just the data that changes on that day during that day, which for a typical client's in the megabytes, of data gets changed on a daily basis.
Okay, yeah. Well, you just said the magic explanation. So basically, you don't do all the backup initially over the internet. Basically, you do an image of the system, and then from that point on, you just once that's installed, you continue just to make the things that are changed. It's like an incremental backup.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly. So we get the bulk of it out of there right away, and then we just put the deltas out there. So if they've got here in Portland, we've got really high-speed internet. I've got 60 megabits coming into my building right now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty ubiquitous. But even if you've got a DSL connection or T1 or something like that, it's still a completely usable product that doesn't impact the performance of the rest of your network.
Cost for the system again for flash back is what?
It depends on how many servers it's backing up. There are a couple variables, but if somebody's interested, they could give me a shout. But it's about $15 a day is what it costs on an ongoing basis to cover, say, one server and get the offsite backup and so forth. It's totally affordable. That's what excites me about it, is that it's not something where, oh, geez, I'd love to have that, but I can't afford it. When you sit there and you go, well, $15 a day to get business continuation if your building burns down.
No, it makes sense.
Hard to say no.
The website is Netropole, Netropole.com. David, we have a link to it at our website at computeramerica.com. If you're driving, you can't write it down. Just go to our website, click on the show notes button. Ben already has the company and the links, and they're already up there. And then, of course, you want to find more information, go to the website and or speak to them and get all the particulars. At that. Listen, Dave, I want to thank you so much for being here on the show tonight. Very illuminating, and look forward to having you back again at some time. Okay.
I'd love to come back. It's been great. Thanks so much for the chance.
Hey, Dave. Listen, thanks again. Have a good evening. All right.
You guys have a good night.
All right. Bye bye.